Our second discussant is Catherine Ragasa. Catherine is a senior research fellow here at IFPRI. We look forward to your comments, Catherine.
So thank you for the invitation. Good afternoon. And thank you for the opportunity to provide my observations and feedback on the direction of the Food Security Journal. So I'm an author, a reviewer, and a regular consumer of the papers in this journal. So as an author, I've published two articles, and one of them, which is on fertilizer subsidy on maize, which is one of the most important food crops in Ghana, is highly cited. It's one of those articles with high attention score, and among the 80th percentile based on altmetric score. So that's good. That's good for me and good for the journal. I'm a reviewer. I review 2 to 3 journal submissions, journal manuscripts a year. And as a consumer, I have cited at least 10 articles in my papers in the last 2 years. So I've read many useful, exciting, very interesting articles from this journal. And in fact, Food Security and another journal, which is Global Food Security, these are my two journals, to-go-to journals, when I'm looking at papers that discuss food security issues. However, I've noticed that there's wide variation in terms of the quality of the papers that have been published in the journal. And there's heavy focus on some of the themes, which you have clearly are discussed, but there are also major themes that I think are crucial, which are still underrepresented in the journal. So I will provide 3 or 4 of my observations and some thoughts on what I think we can do to enhance the relevance, the contribution and impact of the journal from its already high and reputable base. So let me start with my first observation, which I think we need a more holistic view of food security and nutrition, and the opposite of that, or the lack of them, which is food insecurity and malnutrition. We all know, we're from IFPRI, that malnutrition can be in 3 forms. Undernutrition, which is the dietary energy deficiency, which I think is the heavy focus of the journal, which is fine, considering the historical account of the journal that you have mentioned, Richard and Serge. But there's also the micronutrient deficiency. And the last one, which is the obesity and overweight. I've been reading the WHO reports, which I'm sure you are also aware that while undernutrition is very crucial to address, and it's still the main burden, especially for kids under 5, but obesity and overweight has also become, or has represent as a major burden for adults. And based on WHO estimates, they have been estimating that death from overweight or obesity has surpassed. There are more deaths from obesity and overweight than underweight. And while children undernutrition is decreasing over time, which is great news for everybody, but child obesity and overweight is on the rise, and WHO has estimated that obesity worldwide has more than doubled since 1980. So it's understandable how the origins of Food Security Journal is, which is the heavy focus on the production side and the hunger, famine, and undernutrition. But I think there are other problems in many of the countries that we work on, and they are faced with multiple burdens of malnutrition, and not just hunger, and not just undernutrition. And I think we are increasingly understanding that food security is more than just producing food, but it's a fundamental issue of access to nutritious, healthy, diverse, and safe food for everyone. My second point is the whole concept of food systems, which Suresh has mentioned, Serge and Richard have mentioned. The concept of food system that has been increasingly used in policy discussions. And it's one way of thinking and a systems approach that would better understand the challenges and opportunities for improving food security and nutrition. Suresh mentioned, the report of the high-level panel of experts on food security and nutrition, where they highlight food, systems, approach, which consists of three major elements. One is food systems chain, or food supply chains. The second is food environment, and the third is consumer behavior. So first element on food supply chains. So it starts from inputs, production systems. That's the start. And I think there's heavy focus on the journal on that particular aspect. But there's also a wide range of other stages of the production or stages of the supply chain. You have the processing, packaging, distribution, retail, and wholesale markets. So I think it's underrepresented right now in the journal, but there could be more focus on the middle of the chain. And there's also limited attention on consumer and consumer behavior in the journal that could be further enhanced and intensified within the journal. Lastly, on the food environments, as Serge and Richard have mentioned the different environments, right? The biophysical, environmental factors. These are really great, and I think many of the papers in the journal have addressed this one. But there are also a lot of issues more related to economic, political changes, socio-cultural changes, like for example gender-based constraints, and the changing role of women in the households, and the implications of the changing food systems, for example, on worsening the time burden and workload of women. There's also the whole demographic factors, population, you've mentioned migration, but also the changing patterns and increasing share of the population that are going to the urban areas. So these, I think, are the factors that are very important. It's discussed in piecemeal or in silos in the journal, but a systematic assessment of these factors and the interlinkages of these different factors and how these different factors, or you call it food and environment, influence or impact food security and nutrition. And the third point, it's good that I'm the last speaker, so I have, I guess, 8 minutes or 9 minutes. Is it? Sorry, last one. My observation with the journal is that there's I think, very few, really articles in the journal wherein food safety, I'm working a lot on food safety, on food security has been the focus, or there has been discussion a lot on food security and nutrition itself. Oftentimes, what I've noticed in the journal is that food security is just used in passing, in the introduction, even in the title, and then mentioned again in the conclusion. But it's not really an in-depth discussion of food security and nutrition, issues. So I think, that's, one area where we could, all enhance the impact of the journal. I have more to say, but I'll stop here, and I can continue my one-on-one discussions, with you. But I just would like to, to thank the editors and the editorial board, and also the reviewers for the service and also the dedication to the journal, which is, as a researcher, this is our to-go-to journal. So thank you.